It's a very subtle message. Okay. You'll have to let me know, and I apologize in advance for my fantastic Wi-Fi that I have. If you cannot hear me, please just say, Megan, stop. Okay. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining our roundtable for emergency preparedness. So we invited some really great experts in our field to kind of just kick off the conversation, pretty casual, just going to share experiences and see if anybody has anything they're working on or they need help with, or any just sort of discussion points that we want to kick around the table. But I'll start off by introducing some of our guests here. We'll start with Mr. Dave Porter here from Westgate Lakes, our Director of Safety and Security. Just go ahead, if you wouldn't mind, Dave, just introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. I'm a 33-year veteran of the New York Police Department, retired as a sergeant special assignment, worked in multiple capacities, but one of the things that I enjoyed during my tenure with them was to be one of their emergency managers and assist my precinct command with emergency planning. In addition to that, I also volunteer still with the United States Coast Guard, um, and worked in several capacities there, particularly in the marine safety world. Was an air crew rated flight crew member, and in addition to that, was a designated weather specialist. So did a lot of emergency planning, setting up emergency operations centers and the like. So I dabbled in a little bit and have been the security director here, with Westgate for the last 7 years to current. And geez, the only other thing I can think of was that my education was, I'm a history major, but went back to school and got my master's before I retired in emergency management. So that is my background. And if anyone is ever interested, if you're emergency managers yourself, there's a really great public organization that you can join that has a chapter here in Central Florida. It's called ACES, where there, being part of that, you can pick the brains of other local emergency management specialists, directors of security, or what have you. You can go for particular accreditations, and there's a host of training offered that you can either pay for to get your accreditation, which only bolsters your resume, but there's a host of other training that's available that is free and online that you can either take part of in real time, or you can watch the videos and get the accreditation and certificates for having participated in those trainings. It's roughly 140 plus or minus dollars a year, but the information that you get from that organization, uh, most of which is free, is beyond compare to what you can get. And the only other thing I think you can liken it to is the commensurate training that you can get from just registering with FEMA through their independent study program. So if you Google FEMA ISP, FEMA, then there's like a space and then ISP. There's a whole host of emergency management planning and training, managing volunteers, organizing your people, incident command systems training, running an emergency operations center, so forth and so on, that is so invaluable and it's free. And if anyone is back in school or going back to school, most of those credits that you get from FEMA, you can transfer to your college credit. And maybe you wind up saving yourself a little money and getting some college credits applied. Even if it's 3 to 9 college credits, it's 3 to 9 college credits less that you have to pay. So I'll start with that, and that's my resume, and it's a pleasure making everyone's acquaintance.
Oh, thank you so much for that. We just had Kate just mentioned this is really great. Would you mind sharing that link to ACIS, that resource?
Yes, most certainly. I'll put it in the chat right now.
That would be amazing. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you so much. Let's move on to Mr. Justin Leon from River Ranch, the Director of Resort Experience.
Hey. Thank you, Megan. So, my name is Justin Leon, the Director of Resort Experience here at Westgate River Ranch Resort. I've been in the hospitality and aquatics industry for a little over 9 years now. Had the chance to start off my journey in Orlando, Florida, and somehow landed in a super remote location in the middle of Lake Wales. But throughout my venture, I've had a lot of opportunities to open water parks, to redesign standard operating procedures, travel across the United States, had some fun auditing a few different resorts for their aquatics program, and really fell in love with not only safety but satisfaction. And that's kind of like my top two pillars of how I like to lead my teams is focusing on having a good time for our guests, our owners, and our team members alike, but also putting safety at the forefront. So I'm sure throughout this discussion, we're going to be able to dabble into a lot of different conversations. So I'll share some knowledge across the way. But that's a little bit about me. Been in the game for about 9 years and so happy to be here chatting with everyone today. And hey, David, it's great to see you again.
Always a pleasure, Justin.
All right, awesome. And then moving down to Hawks Cay Resort, Mr. Evenus Paris.
Well, hello, everyone. Nice to meet you all. My resume is not as quite big as everyone else. I've been in the hospitality business for about 10 years plus now. I've also been in the role for the management position for about 6 years, and with that time, I've I am now the current manager and experience manager for the resort at Hawks Cay Resort, creating and booking activities, trying to go off of the skills and the great lessons that was given by me by the one and only Miss Megan Levy herself. We did work alongside with each other in the past, creating experience for the resort guests. We also our main focus was also the safety. Was number one for us as far as experience. Without the safety, nothing else matches up. So we do focus a lot on the safety. Some of the issues that um, we we focus on is the setting and the environment for the guests that are booking with us, and how that aligns with how we provide the safety for our guests around the resort area. We are a resort that has about 5 pools that we manage. We build experience around the resort as kind of like a cruise ship setting experience for the guests, where there's different areas and different time frames for their experience and their bookings. And I am um, really proud to be in the position that I am to be able to be the one in charge of Hawks Cay Resort's experience. We also, Justin, are getting a new water park for the resort as well. So I will also be venturing deeper into that area as well. So I'm glad to make your acquaintance, because that also may be something that may come as a good partnership to be able to have you along for your experience and your knowledge as well.
Wonderful. Thank you, Paris. Something that Paris did not mention about himself is that he was a very key safety manager for the rebuild when we went through Hurricane Irma. Irma was a direct hit in the Keys, and so he was a really big part of the evacuation procedure, as well as the rebuild and all of the processes that we went through during that time. So just kind of bringing his background and insight on that big event. So yeah, this is going to be basically just a really casual. I'm just going to start off. Does anybody have any questions? If you do, feel free to pop them in the chat or just unmute and ask. There's not that many of us here, so we can just kind of go around the circle. Who do we have here? Going down the thing. There's Cameron. Hi, Jesse. Stephanie. All right. So, I got a couple of things here. We can throw this out to Dave. Just this one for you. What types of emergencies have you encountered, and what are you most concerned? What are your top concerns for safety and emergencies in the recreation space? You're on mute, my friend.
I was just sorry about that. I was looking for another resource to send out for the FEMA ISP. So to your question, the things that are of most concern is providing the basics, the basic building blocks upon which safety and security are provided to our guests as well as our team members. So everything from access control to lighting, to what the curbing looks like, and the presence and availability of emergency response equipment, whether it's an emergency lift or removal chair, first aid kits, AEDs, and then the advertising of where those AEDs are, with the little triangular signs that are viewable from two different directions or whatever, so that it's a frame of reference for anyone who may need it, whether it's the resort staff accessing it and making sure that they know where it is to access, or if in that moment the last person from the resort has just left a given area and that emergency happens. Perhaps there's a off-duty law enforcement that's visiting, or a nurse or a doctor that's visiting your facility. They look up and they see the signage, they know where the AED is and can start that application. And so everything starts from there in terms of preparing your resort to be able to respond, and then how are your people trained to respond, and then what plans do you have in place based on those needed responses? What are you dealing with in that moment? Is it heat stroke? Is it a minor injury? Is it a near drowning? Is it a heart attack, or what have you? And then having the plans in place to deal with that in the scope of what that incident is, and then branching out from there.
Thank you. Uh, Thank you. Question over to you, Paris, especially for organizations that maybe they don't necessarily have a safety and security department. Maybe there's just safety and security captains. What would you recommend, as far as building off what David has shared here, conducting those plans and putting those plans together and resources to reach out to build that emergency management contact list?
Well, from my experience, the best way to approach any safety measurement, even if you don't have a full team, is always just to have that designated person who you can go to as far as what to come up with a plan. For example, I'll piggyback off of the Irma situation. A lot of the times, some of our challenges for our resort that we experience is being able to communicate with crew members as far as what's happening, and how they would get information and access to what would be the need in the preparations for emergencies and storms. So it's having a station or a designated they can be able to call or chat with someone to let them know what's going on, to be able to have an open communication about what the needs are and what they are able to do. And sometimes also, even with the guests on property, some of our challenges was being able to get guests, to get the communication towards the guests while they're on property, having having everyone panicking, trying to keep structure and going with the resort while these are happening. So it's a matter really for us is based on experience on having a designated person that who you can go to be that person, to be able to have an open communication line for everyone to go to, and as far as to understand what the needs are as far as preparation for the any safety guidelines.
Thank you. And David, maybe this is probably a really great question for you. Where would you recommend, and I thank you for adding those links in there, where would you recommend as a baseline for developing an emergency, or whether that you have one, maybe tools to analyze your emergency plan? Do you have any sort of thoughts and resources of where somebody could kind of go and reevaluate their existing plan or create a new one?
So don't necessarily have a resource. What I would use as a guide is this. They say the best form of flattery is to copy something that already exists and is successful. Um, so not everyone works for Westgate, but I would be remiss as an emergency planner to not share any resource that I have so that you can pick from it. Case in point, our resort, Megan's and mine, and Justin's former resort here at the lakes. We are sandwiched right off of I-4, west of SeaWorld, south of Universal, and north of the Disney properties. But more locally, we have a hospital right next door that has a life flight helipad. We're on the glide path to Orlando International. And we also are surrounded by three, if not four, helicopter touring agencies. So about a year and a half ago, um, at least a year to a year and a half ago, you might recall hearing about a Marine F-35 fighter plane that went down 50 miles off the shore of Myrtle Beach, which was roughly 35 miles away from a Westgate resort. Uh, and then pretty much within a few months of that, there was a sheriff's helicopter that went down in South Florida. It lost its whole tail, not just the tail rotor. The tail actually separated from the body of the aircraft, and the aircraft crashed into a warehouse. You might have seen that on the news. So I know that the New York Police Department had a plan for handling aviation related accidents. So all I did was I downloaded the app for the New York City Police Department's patrol guide, and I copy and pasted the procedure that already existed from their guide into a Word document, and then didacted all the law enforcement centric stuff because my staff and I are not in that world anymore, and tailored it to fit the needs of the resort if we had an incident, so I could guide my security staff to have some sort of measured response, even if it was just command and control of access points and making sure we got the relevant information to assist law enforcement and fire rescue when they got here. What's the tail number? Did the pilot survive? Where is the pilot? Do we have his information? Just all these things that they would need once they got here, because it's going to take them anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes to respond. In those 5 minutes, what information can we provide them before the rest of the aircraft burns up or becomes so damaged that the information that we would all need collectively to resolve this becomes unrecognizable until NTSB got there and did their work. And being an auto theft investigator, what is the VIN number or the identification number that you would have from the motors? NTSB would get that. But dialing it back even, we had a car that spontaneously burst into flames here on property. It was an Uber delivery driver. So, how do you respond to incidents like that? So the best thing I can think of is think of what are the common incidents that you deal with routinely. What have you had to shoot from the hip from, and what do you already have a plan for? And is there a better way to build that mousetrap? You think that you're prepared for the things that you see, but what about the things that you don't see with any routine? Like, we have a plan to handle domestic incidents not only among our team members, not only among our guests, but among our team members, because you got to do threat assessments. Unfortunately, this property has had two incidents in 10 years where there was a domestic that went bad between a team member and their spouse, and the spouse showed up here on property and committed a hellacious act of an assault against that team member, and then led the police on a car chase and took his life 5, 6, 7 miles away from the property. And then we had an active shooter here on property back in 2022 in December. So we've seen the gamut of things. So it's not really a matter of if, it's more of a question of when, right? So Megan here has run some really great events in our breezeway. And our breezeway is right off of the traffic circle where people enter. And the circumference of her area minus the top of the key of the breezeway where our traffic circle is protected by some form of bollards or elevation where a vehicle couldn't get there except for the front. So again, reading the tea leaves and looking at everything in the news. 2 days ago, 3 days ago, there was an event in California where a vehicle went through a crowd of people that were having some sort of celebratory event out in an open area on the sidewalk in a wherever, and this car mounted the sidewalk and ran over several people. And the response of one of those people that came to the aid of the people that were run over was to drag this person out and shoot them. You right? So if you're not watching the news and you're not keeping yourself keenly aware as to what's going on around you, you potentially leave yourself open to something that can happen. So it's not just what have you seen, it's what's going on around you that you have to basically prepare for. And if you don't have a cookie cutter plan that you can reach into or access from someone else who might have the experience or the access to that information, I welcome myself as a resource to you. If there's a way to record who's here and what the contact information is, and you reach out to me, I will share what I have with you, and you can adopt it to your own needs.
Great. Thank you so much. Yes, prepare it. More information is better. So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. So
give me 1 second. I'm just going to absent myself for a moment because I just have to return a phone call. My phone's been blowing up while we were discussing this.
No worries. Thank you. All right, Justin, water park. So in outdoor spaces in general with water elements, and can you tell us a little bit about your experience with emergency preparedness as far as in the water park space, and what are some things for those of us who are brand new to the water park industry? What are some things that we should keep in mind when preparing?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So before we dive into water parks, I do want to piggyback a little off of what Dave just went ahead and shared. When we talk emergencies and major emergencies at that, what comes to my mind are situations where team members are unfortunately unable to make slow decisions, right? They have to act fast. So unlike the Orlando properties and most properties, my current resort is in the middle of nowhere, for lack of better terms, to where a medical response is going to take anywhere from 35 to 55 minutes, right? So, given these circumstances, and I'm sure there's many properties out there that can relate to similar circumstances, when it comes to major emergencies, we really took the approach of, all right, if we have team members who are not trained on how to respond to whether it's a vehicle accident or a team member accident, let's see how we can pivot. When we were doing some research into how can we respond and make our time precious of that 30-minute gap, we thought to ourselves, in most resorts or in most businesses, in the event of a major emergency, team members are actually set up to maybe recognize the emergency, arrive to the scene, and just monitor, right? And kind of hold down the fort while we wait for emergency services to arrive. But something that we've done here that I would love to share with anyone, and I'm always a huge advocate, is to train our team members in basic life saving skills such as first aid, CPR, and AED, and it really goes such a long way. I mean, there's many resources out there. We specifically partner up with American Red Cross, and even with American Red Cross, there's different levels to where, for example, we have our lifeguards who are trained to be able to provide life-saving support in water, on land, and ranging from basic first aid to life-saving ventilations and CPR. And then we have our frontline team members ranging from front office, housekeeping, engineering, who are now in the process of getting trained to be able to administer first aid, hands-only CPR, and more. And what that has done for us is provide that last best defense in the event of an emergency, to where our team members are equipped with not only the skills but ultimately the confidence to respond and to be able to save someone's life. As we all know, seconds matter, and if you are in an area where the professionals are going to take quite some time to respond, I truly recommend getting with your teams and training, because the training's there. And a resource I would like to share here is There's a simple app that is on the App Store for both Androids and Apple, and it's the American Red Cross First Aid app. And it talks about what to do in the event of a bee sting, dog bite, horse bite, and anything that you can think of probably. It's almost like an AI app for first aids, and it gives you two responses. It gives you a response of how to help someone if you are not trained, and it gives you a response on how to help someone if you are trained with certifications. So it's a resource I share with all of my team members from both water park to activities to go ahead and do some research on their own and familiarize themselves with what can happen. Because as we know, anything can happen. So it's always great to train team members there. Now, that's just a little topic that popped in my head when Dave was talking about being ready and planning for those one-off situations. More on the topic of water parks. Water parks are one heck of a place to be. And, when it comes to emergencies, whether it's talking about the forecast and the weather or events that can take place, at first, early on in my career, was more so, hey, let's go ahead and plan, but hope nothing happens. But then as time progressed, you really have to take emergencies and not only think of it as what to do when these things happen, but ultimately create the culture of preparedness to where your teams and the guests around understand in the event of an emergency, this is what's going to happen, right? From hurricanes to missing children to first aid incidents, our team needs to be able to thoroughly understand this is the run of show of what's going to take place when this type of incident happens. So, from my time in water parks, ranging from hurricane preparedness to just major emergencies inside of the event itself, the best practice I can share right now is creating a team that focuses on trainings that simulate real life case scenarios to where in the event of that emergency the team is not able to say what should we do, but more so saying, okay, cool, we've practiced this, let's activate our EAP on XYZ and have a good time. So with water parks, it's a 9 times out of 10, it's a large venue. So you can't really just act on the fly. You have to prepare. So another thing that I would like to share while I have the floor here is creating a plan on, let's use the example, let's say what, right? If we in Florida are anticipating a hurricane to pass by, unfortunately, the way Florida's set up, sometimes we get a 5 day notice that a big hurricane's going to come by, right? So we have a procedure in place here at our property where we get thorough notifications from our command center. So what that does for us, it limits out all of the resources that we can use, and we just focus on one command center to give us the verdicts. And then from that source, we're able to break down, alrighty, if we're 3 days out, we're going to focus on furniture and clearing our park from all hazards and projectiles that can lead to more severe incidents. And when we go ahead and do any type of shutdown, one of the things that I found truly helpful, and it actually was helpful because we've missed this a few times in my past, is doing a thorough report on how everything is before an incident takes place, to then do a thorough incident on or thorough report on how everything is after the fact, to be able to work with your finance departments and your security departments to report any let's say damage or missing items to be able to document those items. Now, I'm super excited to talk all about the water park side because when it comes to emergencies, it's much more than just acting in the moment, but it's really starting way back when we talk about training and creating action plans to prep your team and the property on what to do and what to do it.
Great. Thank you so much, Justin. That's really great information. I'm just going to toss this question out to everybody, and maybe Paris, you can kind of kick us off. But talking about best practices and maybe lessons learned, can you tell us about a practice, an emergency preparedness like procedure that you've actually implemented and how it went? Any lessons learned from that? Because I mean, of course, I know that you went through Irma like I did. So anything you can share from that experience?
Yeah, there's a lot of scenarios with that incident. Some of the stuff that I remember as far as good practices and stuff that we learned from were the amount of time frame for communication to um, our crew members and guests. So it is very critical in an emergency situation to have a timely communication set for sending out information and providing the information to our crew members and guests, so that way we all know and we're on the same page as far as like the expectations, as we said, and what is to come, so that way everyone's not in a limbo and panicking as far as what's going to happen. The best practice for us that we've had to learn from is to make sure that everybody understands exactly what's happening. Everybody understands exactly what's the next step, and then who is the main contact and who the person to come to, as far as for any confusion or any information that may have been missed. Especially more important because we most of the time we will set our focus, and I've noticed we set our focus when we have emergencies on the guests, because we're so wanting to make sure that the guests, while they're here, they're safe and they're good. And we do a real good job most of the time for that. And then we end up forgetting our crew members and our staffing, that they also are needing some of that guidance as well, even for those who aren't there at that moment, while it's happening, even for those who are home trying to figure out, trying to find exactly what's going on the property, to know exactly what's the next step. How long is the property going to be closed for? How what is the best way to reach out to someone? And so some of those things are what we've had to learn from, as far as having a a perfect timing as far as communication. Make sure we get to everyone. And for me, it was understanding the steps as they happen, as far as what we do first, what is the best practice of what's the first step that needs to be taken, and what's the best way to alert everyone without having everyone panicking, and just having everyone trying to figure out ourselves who is the best person to actually make contact with first. And as you all mentioned, a lot of our resources is actually there. We sometimes forget it, but a lot of our resources actually there in our area, such as the Coast Guard, national folks, the FWC folks, and stuff like that. People, if we don't have someone in place on the property, we have those resources that we can actually go into and have them kind of give us a guideline and a floor plan of what would be the best practice as far as emergency preparation and how to deal with that as well.
No, that's great. Yeah, because we actually did reach out to our local Coast Guard station to help us form some plans. And there was after Irma, and just to piggyback on that, our biggest lesson learned was to understand how panicked people will get, and they will leave. And so having that written down plan step by step seems very tedious, but it was really helpful, because when all of the bartenders left, I could take their emergency plan and go through it step by step, in which at the end of the day, when evacuation started happening on the island, there was maybe like 5 of us, I think, left on the pool deck trying to throw chairs into the pool. So it was that panic is real. And so that communication with the team members absolutely pairs. That's definitely something um, not to be ignored at all.
So Megan, can I jump in on that conversation as well? Working backwards, I sent a copy of the emergency response plan that we use here at the lakes. And I just left out the contact numbers of our resort personnel, but gave you basically what you can tailor as a cookie cutter plan for a host of various emergencies. The other thing I want to address is what Paris was just talking about. How do you communicate across the wide spectrum of your property? How do you notify not only your teammates that are present on the property, but what about those preparing to come in or might be on their day off and need to know what's going on? So one of the links that I sent is called ReadyOp. It's an emergency management tool that not only allows you to communicate across a wide spectrum. As a matter of fact, mind if I share screen and bring it up to show you what it looks like?
Sure.
Let me first bring it up, and then I'll go to share screen. Uh, Almost there. that's not what I wanted. Oh, here we go. Okay, can you all see this screen here?
Yep.
We can.
Okay, so from this platform, of which our corporate office is sharing with all of our properties, Justin, if you get together with David Smith, he should have a version of this as well. But it allows you from this platform to not only design emergency response plans using FEMA's ICS forms, Incident Command Systems forms, just from a basic notification standpoint, it allows you to do a whole host of things. So here, I have tailored my executive notification. So if I have to send a notification out to all of our department leaders and our GM and AGM, and then notify our corporate command center and our emergency management director from corporate, I can do that from this platform with the touch of a button, where I can send out notifications by text message, voice, or email, and it'll read out an automated message of whatever my message is. Active shooter, weather alert, notify your teams, whatever person stuck in an elevator or what have you. I can send out that notification to all of our department heads so they know what's going on in real time and can address that issue. Let's see, what else? I'm trying to move this down so I can close it out. Hold on. Another notification that I can do. Some inclement weather is coming in. I want to know I want to notify the water park. I can do that. I can tailor a message to just my security team, or I can tailor a message to everyone in resort operations and the sales team, which are normally sequestered in an area where they don't really interact with us directly, but more so indirectly as they're doing their sales tours and they're passing us by. But I have the ability to set up whatever type of notification to a specific group or groups of people that I need to, so I can get information out in real time. Now, I'm not overly familiar with what the cost is because it was purchased one time through our corporate office, and it's able to be shared down to the granular individual resorts that have access to this. And of our 21 resorts, we all have access to it. It's just a matter of who's pressing it into service first at this time. Is typically our larger resorts, the villas in Kissimmee, River Ranch, down where Justin is, and here at the lakes. So it's a mass notification tool, an event planning, pass down sharing, dispatch platform where you can have real time communications not only with your teams that are working, but like I said, I have everyone. We have 675 resort operations personnel and roughly 250, 275 sales team members that I can push out a notification to in real time by text message and email. So there's no way that anyone's going to get missed. And the beauty of this program is you're like, well, 800 people who sat and input all that data.
Yeah.
No one. It pulls directly from our time management system where we clock in and out through ADP for anyone who's using anything like that. That's your time clock where you're clocking in and clocking out throughout the day, arriving to work, leaving from work, and your lunch breaks or what have you. It pulls all that information into this system, and then you just have to tailor your groups as to who you're tailoring your message to. So you can drill down on 800 people and, okay, who works in food and beverage that I need to notify? Who works at the water park that I need to notify? Who works in security that I need to notify? Or do I need to notify everybody? And you can get that granular with this program. I dumped a link into the chat so anyone who's interested and wants to talk with the vendor and see how it would best fit your organization, that is there for you. Of the few things that I was able to dump in there as a resource. Oh, there we go. Got rid of it. So yeah, resort operations. Select an option, notify everybody, continue. And if you look at this list, I'm still scrolling and I'm only in the D's. This is everybody that is assigned to work here at the Lakes Resorts. And you can reach out in real time with an email or a text message blast to let people know what's going on. The other thing I wanted to address was to piggyback off of what Justin said so poignantly. Not only is it important to have a plan, but you want to make your plan available to the people who are going to be the implementers of that plan, and you want to practice your plan and you want to update it regularly. People come and go. Titles change. Justin is the water park guru today. He's the GM tomorrow. Are we updating that information? So you want to, again, you want to have a plan. You want to practice your plan. You want to make it available to those that are going to help you implement it, even if it's the department heads that you're working with, and you want to update it regularly. I'm on version 28. I haven't written 28 versions of this plan. I've probably written maybe 10 versions of this plan, but as people come and go, you want to update that plan with those changes, because there's no use in calling Justin if Justin left the company 3 months ago. Who's in his place? You may need to reach out to Megan or Paris even. So, that's the takeaway from this. Every plan is, I think it was Mike Tyson that said everybody has a plan until they're punched in the face. If you're not practicing your plan, having a plan isn't the panacea. You have to practice it and make sure that people are well versed in it and know where the tools are that are going to help you implement that plan, as well as the personnel. And if you haven't done that, your plan is going to fail. It's going to fall apart in the first few moments of your incident.
Oh yeah, and I think too many times, I'm sure everyone on this call can agree to this. We've seen a lot of teams create many plans but stop there. And I think training is the key to success. And even when we do a lot of our introductions to these plans, I like to say, "Hey team, we are introducing this to you guys now. We're practicing it, but where you guys are going to gain your confidence and really be able to excel is through continuation of training." So I think the key is developing those plans and also training so hard to where team members don't have to rely on making calls to past leaders and asking questions, but
Mhm.
know, due to my training schedule, I'm confident in this. One thing I do want to add, based on the program that you just shared, more on a smaller scale, something that we implemented in the past year at my resort here is, in the event of emergencies such as hurricanes that not only affect the resort but everyone around the areas, we pinpoint select leaders in each division of our zones, and those leaders are responsible to connect with their team members and provide them with resources such as sandbags, shelter, food supply, and more. But not only provide those resources out to our teams, but check in with our team members. We like to go ahead and check in with every team member before, let's say, the hurricane hits, check in with our team members after the hurricane hits, while providing updates on their jobs, such as when they will be deemed safe to return and if they need any additional resources. I know Westgate is a pretty large company, so not many companies have the benefit that I'm about to say, but this type of benefit is everywhere. We have a foundation who helps our team members when in need, right? So a part of that check-in progress process that we have is when team members are able to reach out and say, "Hey, Justin, I'm actually not doing so well. The hurricane caused XYZ damage." We're able to go ahead and provide them with resources that they can trust and gain supplies and ample amount of help from, that is not just helping them in their workplace, but helping these people as humans, right? So I think that's a huge part of some of the plans that we've developed in the past, is not only creating a culture of success for your workplace, but also seeing how, as an employer, you can help your team members on the squad.
And to that point also, I'm sure every one of us here has access to an HR department, and there's probably an emergency assistance program that is built into it. But how many of us have access to that information? So when HR is gone at 5 o'clock in the evening, or they're off for the weekend, or as I like to tease my HR director, they get the heat day, they get the cold day, they get the holidays. So on that Thursday on Thanksgiving, when someone is lonely because their family is not in town or available or around anymore, how do we get that information to our teams in order to settle them in and get them the assistance that they may need, even if it's just someone to talk to, because perhaps their problem is beyond our scope and depth to handle. So if you don't have that information, that's something that too should be built into your emergency response plans. So again, in the middle of the night, when that team member is working on that overnight shift, how do we get them the assistance that they need? Because sometimes HR, like I said, is not available. They're on vacation, they're off for the night. Are we waking them up at 1:37 in the morning when this person is in distress? And that very well may be the answer, but we shouldn't have to worry about waking someone up at 1:37 in the morning to have to fire up their laptop to give us access to information we should already have. So again, I encourage you all. My emergency response plan may not be the panacea, the magic bullet, but you might find something in there that is a good resource to you that you can build upon, or at least, yeah, we have this information. Let me take out this page and insert the page that is germane to where you all work, and then build upon that. So I encourage you to at least take a look at it. And if you see something that's askew, because I am not the knower of all things, please reach out to me. If you have, especially if you have a better way of doing something that is in that plan, let's share that information and make it better for all of us. Because it's all about protecting our people, not only our guests, but again, to Justin's point, and a pat on the back there, sir, it's about taking care of our people. Because if we don't take care of our people, we're not in a position to take care of our guests.
Thank you so much. I know we're winding down here on the time, but thank you everybody so much for being on the call. I just want to leave it open for anybody. Anybody else want to share any best practices or have any questions or?
I'll share this as a best practice, and I don't mean to monopolize the time.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to reach it out for Kate, who just raised her hand really quickly.
Go ahead, Kate. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. I probably have gone through more than 20 hurricanes with resorts. Started down in the Keys, I think 1998 with Hurricane George, when I heard Paris keep saying that the guests are panicking. We had the opposite. We had guests laying out in the sun ready to, don't take my chair away. And I'm like, there's a storm coming. And they were not panicking because they were from England and didn't know what we were doing and why we were moving all the chairs. So that was a challenge. So I guess the biggest challenge I had and the best practice I had was being ahead of my management team. So if I had 17 resorts and 27 interns, I had already evacuated my crew and sent them away. And when I was told to evacuate my crew, I'm like, oh, just checked in at the Gaylord, they're gone. And at that time we were owned by the Gaylord, so we could get the employee discount and send them to a sister property that was not, at that time, Orlando was not getting hit. We were getting hit up here in the Panhandle. So just not waiting to be told what to do, just doing it. And when I did that, the students, I communicated with them, but also their professors. And then some students' parents would call me. So I just put them on the email loop of when I was communicating. I would communicate to all 27 students, multiple parents, and Bruce Bolivar, or everybody, a lot of the professors, to keep them in the loop of what we were doing when I had that many resorts and that many interns and that many intern houses to close down because students not from the Florida area wanted to ride out the storm. I just eliminated that as an option, stayed 3 days ahead of when I was supposed to do things, and went ahead and got that done. And I think that was one of the best practices that I had, was staying ahead and just taking the initiative because of the past experience I had been through. I just usually had never had a July hurricane and never had a team that big at that time. And I don't think there's ever been another July hurricane since Hurricane Dennis. But yeah, the names run together now, but I do use it as a teaching tool now in the classroom. And that's why I wanted to be on the call today, because of I just finished teaching safety and security and hotel and resort management, and having this as a resource. Thank you for recording this so that we can come back to it and use it the next time I teach it too. Thank you.
I just want to jump in. I think your point of just doing it is so important, because there's been way too many times to count where I have stormproofed our facilities and no storm came by, right? So being able to be the typical cliche term of safe and sorry is truly the key to success when prepping for emergencies. So I just wanted to jump in and share that there. I think that is perfect to just do it always.
Oh man, and I totally relate to what you said about the guests just clinging on. Like we had some guests definitely panicking because they had no idea what was going on. And they're like, "How do I get out of here?" Blah blah blah. But then we're packing up the island was evacuated. We're ready, and there was this one guest coming out onto the pool deck, and I have like a load of umbrellas in my hand, right? And I'm trying to carry them to safety. And the guests are like, "Where's my umbrella? I really want my umbrella. Why can't I have this chair?" I'm like, "Excuse me." And maintaining that calm, because you don't want to panic them, but you want to panic them enough to leave, just to express the how, and maybe somebody has a better way, maybe a best practice of doing that is to express this to the guest in a way that's like, this is factual, this is happening, and not
without saying what you really want to say.
exactly like, get out, I can't leave until you do.
I will say, to follow up on that, when I was at the Gaylord Rockies Resort, we had, pool deck 800 people on a thunderstorms rolling through. Not quite a hurricane like you all have to deal with, but we did have, random thunderstorms that would come through, and then clearing a deck of 800 people when lightning was coming through was a huge challenge. And, the main thing, especially with crowd control, I would say that would be the one thing that I would say is make sure that your teams know how to control a crowd and direct them in the correct locations, as far as best practices go. Because when you do have a very busy resort, having your team be able to guide the guests to where they need to go, even the ones that are a little bit more difficult, and having the proper verbiage to tell them, because they aren't going to want to go. They're going to see sunshine and clear skies and be like, "Nope, well, the storm is on the way." So really just honing in on what that verbiage is, to still create a good guest experience, because that's we're in that that hospitality industry. So we need to make sure that we are still providing that experience, but also, relaying the severity of the situation.
Right. In terms of even weather monitoring, have a system of redundancy. Don't rely on one source. What you have to remember is if you put on the news to get the local weather, the local weather is reporting what's going on in general terms in the area in which you live. There are systems available that monitor the weather specifically as to where you are. And it might be good to invest in those systems or those websites that are giving you weather in real time at your specific location, as opposed to in general terms as to where you're located. Because we're located in Orlando, but we're here at 9500 Turkey Lake Road. And I can guarantee you the weather here on our lake where Megan runs a marina dock and discharges paddlecraft and everything is different than the weather up at the Millennium Mall, which is 10, 15 minutes away from us. And the differences in those weather in those weather patterns locally, because of the presence or absence of buildings or tall trees or what have you, is going to affect her operations differently here than worrying about what the weather is going to be at Millennium Mall in the middle of a parking lot. So, if you don't have the redundancy to collect weather information, particularly as we're going into we're into it. We're into the hurricane season now, right? So, and buckle up, because again, read the tea leaves. What has the weather been like for the last 3 weeks with a level of consistency? And then when that storm comes, what is the saturation point going to be for your location where the ground is already soaked? And what that saturation point now turns into local flooding for your area. Do you know where the flood zones are in your specific area? And you can go to the FEMA website and go to their flood maps, and you can pull up a flood map that is unique to your address and see what the waters look like in a given area when your area floods out. if it hasn't happened in the last 10 years or 100 years, you keep hearing these 100-year storms, first time in God knows how long. It might be a good time to poll that website and see what your area looks like. And again, have different sources of information. Don't just rely on Spectrum News or the Weather Channel, right? Because again, it's in general terms. Unless that guy that you don't want to see that's always out in the middle of that storm on your property to know that it's going to be there then. What other resources do you have to tell you what it's going to be like in your area, at your resort, at your location? How many pieces of redundancy do you have? Do you have a NOAA weather radio at your location? Do you have a SIOScan lightning meter at your location? Do you have a weather monitoring device complete with weather vane and barometer that's giving you the wind speed and the weather at your location? And if you've answered no to either one or all of those questions, you're probably behind the eight ball for knowing what's going on at your location at that time. So I welcome you to take a look at those things and to not monopolize any more time because I've been talking too much perhaps. But please feel free to contact me and reach out and we can discuss what platforms are available and I'll get that information to you.
Thanks. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, piggybacking off that, the system that we use here, very similar to what he was just describing. We use Perry Weather, and it is a fantastic system. And I literally have a weather station on top of my building here, and running a winter operation. It not only helps us with thunderstorms coming through during the actual, right now, but in the winter we can get accurate humidity readings and things like that for when a big snowstorm is coming through for our ski hill. So once again, very, very good piece of equipment.
And what is that called? Perry Weather?
Perry Weather. They're based out of Austin, Texas. And
Perry or Perri?
Perry.
Would you mind popping that into the chat, Andrew?
Absolutely.
So we can.
I was just doing that for you. And I was going to put in the one that we use. Thank you. Right.
Thank you. Okay. Well, wonderful. Thank you, everybody, so much. Did anybody have any last minute questions or thoughts before we close it out here? Well, thank you, everybody, so much. Big thank you to David, Paris, and Justin for hopping on and sharing a lot. Thank you so much to everybody who's joined for our little roundtable on emergency preparedness. Hopefully, everybody found something maybe interesting or something they can use. But again, like David said, hey, please feel free to reach out to any of us. We're one big happy family here. So just reach out if anybody has any questions or any resources they'd like to share. But once again, thank you for joining us for the roundtable, and I hope everybody has a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Seeing you all. Thank you.
Guys.
Have a good one.
Justin, I'm going to look you up.
Please do. Yes, we're excited to have you.
And same thing, Paris. I'm going to come find you too.
All right, I'll be looking for that camper.
Y'all have fun.
Thank you, Megan.
Hey, thank you so much.
Yep.
That was really great and very
thanks
helpful.
for putting this together. This is good.
Yeah, no, it's amazing how it's really helpful information. We really kind of take for granted the amount of systems that we have here, both at Hawks Cay. We have a lot of systems and really great plans at Hawks Cay, and what we have at Westgate. We have a lot of resources here, so it's good to share all of that with everybody. So I appreciate your input.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for setting it up.
All right.
Yeah, kudos to you. Everybody have a great rest of your evening and have a quiet hurricane season.
All right.
Talk about it.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.